what exactly happened to Europe and what exactly happened in their elections? Do you think that maybe it's a possibility of seeing people protest on the left, which of course is what they do after they lose elections? It's not just here in the United States, it's also in Europe as well. Did you think that maybe it was possible that maybe some people throughout Europe may have, I don't know, maybe seen something coming, given the fact that they're dealing with the same type of immigration issue that we're dealing with here in the United States?
Big blow to Macron's Renaissance party.
A big blow and a pretty big surprise, I think, to many on his own side and even within France's political press. He didn't have to do this, Frederica, is the truth of it. The far-right's National Rally came in at just over 31.5% for the time being. These are projections, not the final tally, but it is considered such a resounding victory that the president has announced a snap election, first round June 30th, second round July 7th, and that could redraw France's parliamentary map. Now, of course, President Macron wasn't giving up that much in this second mandate. He'd only had a relative majority. Still, it is a big gamble and could lead to some pretty big changes here on the political front in France. Frederica.
And it's not just in France. I mean, exit polls have also showed gains for far-right parties in Germany, Austria, and the Netherlands.
That's right. They made some pretty big gains across the board. And this had been widely predicted in the polls. Things like frustration over the economy, inflation, fears in some manufacturing industries and in farming about green regulations, for instance, a lot of resentment.
And there is also this little thing, too, that's also going on in Europe as well.
It was terrifying. The boys had to be rescued by the police as bottles and eggs rained down on them. Mohammed Hijab then threatened a police officer that he'd kill the boy's dog if he saw it again.
However, when those Zionists came in with their dogs, that was an act of provocation. So what we're saying now, and I'm making it very clear so everyone understands, if those dogs come close to us again, we will see it as an act of aggression and we will kill those dogs, we'll put them down.
Hijab and Dawa then led the crowd to Speaker's Corner, and as the mob marched through London streets, screaming, "We'll find some Jews, we want their blood," the police did nothing. Let that sink in. They're calling for our literal blood, and the police are just strolling alongside them.
We'll find some Jews there! We want the Zionists, we want the blood!
Doesn't have the same two-party system that we have here in the United States. I mean, I understand the libertarians are a thing, and of course you can run as independent, but we'll have another video out on that there at a later date, giving you guys my honest feeling about it, because a lot of people will sit here and scream and holler and say that we need a comparable third party here in the United States, even though you have the Libertarian Party. But I also need to go ahead and tell you right now, after what we've been seeing over the past few years, I don't exactly consider them to be serious. They typically only get about 2 or 3% in the election. And also, anytime somebody votes Libertarian, they typically tend to not understand that they're just voting for the label Libertarian. And of course, you end up with people like what I'm showing you now, who is pretty much a communist, yet he's actually running as a libertarian. But still, at the same time, though, that there's one of the main reasons why is I don't take these people seriously. So what exactly happened? Well, what's been going on in Europe is exactly what the hell is going on here in the United States. Immigration is definitely an issue. Crime is a problem, and then to go on top of this, not only is it crime, but it's also the simple fact that, I don't know, maybe Germans want to be German. Maybe the French want to be the French. Also something else, too, and I'm showing you guys some stuff here in the... right here in the B-roll footage, as far as France. The brown is where the vast majority of the votes came at to vote for the right-leaning parties. And by the way, Emmanuel Macron is going out of his way to try to dissolve the elections as much as he can, or at least the elections in France. The thing is this right here. People in rural areas, and yes, there are also people in urban areas, big urban areas, are starting to wake up to the fact that this right here is not good. And what I mean by this right here is not good is that they're taking in a lot of people that, quite frankly, they can't take care of. Also, something else, too, to consider is that these nations don't have an actual Second Amendment, so you end up running into situations like I showed you guys earlier. And I'm also showing you some more of that stuff right here in the B-roll footage, so that way you guys can see exactly what people are dealing with. Now, I can already hear somebody screaming and hollering, saying Zionist and pro-Israel, and this right here is what you are, and all that type of stuff there. No. It's about good old-fashioned security. It's about good old-fashioned self-defense and being able to take care of yourself. That right there is definitely an issue. And of course, the more and more people that you bring in from certain countries also brings a lot of problems. Those problems also come certain little narratives as well. Like, for example, they're basically calling anybody and everybody who voted against the left parties or the liberal parties or the social democrats. And by the way, it was in Spain, it was in France, this right here was in Belgium, this right here was also in Germany as well. We'll get to Germany here in a second. If you disagree with these people, then guess what happens? They call you far right. That's kind of the thing that's going to be happening now. It's almost like they're trying to recreate everything that happened before World War II, even though the ideologies of Europe at that time, that right there being fascism, National Socialism, they were all left-wing as well as communism. It just so happened to be that it's different forms of socialism is what it is. Fascism, of course, came from Giovanni Gentilian, ardent Marxists, and of course, communism would eventually get spread throughout Russia, and of course, they tried to spread throughout all of Eastern Europe. Fact of the matter is all pretty much the same. It's just different forms of it. Some of these forms tend to focus in more on race, and some of them tend to focus in more on class, which still somehow or another focuses on race because commies are actual little ardent racist. But going back to what we were saying earlier, one of those nations that also had a pretty good night at the ballot box, at least as far as the conservatives or at least as far as the right was concerned, was the nation of Germany. However, before I talk about Germany, I want to go ahead and talk about something else. So for whatever reason, Germany thought that everybody that was 16 years old would vote to the left. I got this right from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. I understand it's kind of dry or whatnot. I listen to these guys from time to time, especially when Sargon is there or Colin is there. But I want to say a couple of the guys have actually left there. But still, though, I find it very fascinating that these people automatically assume that those aged 18 and below would just openly vote left wing. Let's watch.
Who went to 30%, the AfD to 15.90%. And the SPD, which is the Social Democrat Party of Olaf Scholz, less than 14%, and the Green Party 11.90.
And isn't it funny because didn't Olaf Scholz bring in votes for 16-year-olds on the assumption that they were all going to vote left wing, and they just all went out and vote for the Nazi Party instead?
Well, I don't think that it's a party of that sort, but
no. From his perspective, from his perspective, he thought that votes for 16-year-olds would lock in a sort of lefty green paradigm forever.
Yes,
and they just went, enough. I'm not living like this in this country for the next 40, 50 years.
Yes,
and they went straight.
And I have in the end a claim by Ralf Schollhammer about the young people in Germany and why they voted for AfD. To a very large extent. So in the previous election 5 years ago, the Christian Democratic Party had close to 29%, so they gained a point. And the Green Party was in 20.5%. So the Green Party's agenda was the second, and now they've sort of lost half of their support.
Now, about a year ago, I released a video here on this platform about young men, ages 16 to 18, early 20s, high school, going into college. And young men are shifting more and more and more to the right. And seeing how it is that the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, by the way, is a Republican nominee, just announced at his recent rally that he was going to be going out of his way after he's president to end taxes on tips and wages, which, by the way, a lot of people, especially if you're a waiter, a waitress, or if you've got, additional money coming in from other areas, this is actually going to help a lot of people out, especially small businesses too. And if you really and truly want to get these people to actually be open to voting for you, not just staying home or voting for Democrat, then what you would do is you would focus in on their actual life situation. Do you think maybe it's possible that what is going on in Europe is also going on here in the United States? Maybe young people are, in fact, beginning to shift to the right. Do you think that maybe that's a possibility? I mean, in each single election cycle, Republicans, conservatives can't get no more than 28, 29%, but now you're looking at 35 to 38, 39, sometimes 42 in some polls that show Trump and Biden compare when it comes to certain age groups, ages 18 to 19. That's actually pretty much a pretty daggone big plus. I mean, just kind of think about that. It just seems to me like maybe there's a shift going on, or it could also be...
Got half. They have deindustrialized. They have destroyed Germany.
Yes. And the SPD party was 2 percentages more, and the AfD was around 11. So things are changing. And here, let's see how Germany voted in the European Parliament election. Let's say CDU in black and AfD in blue. You have here.
Yeah, top marks to anyone who can guess where the Cold War line was drawn through Germany.
It's almost like the people who lived under communism can recognise communist mismanagement more easily. It's funny, that, isn't it?
Except for that one bit there, which is Berlin, which was a little island in itself.
Ancestral people telling you about mismanagement, communist mismanagement, because that's quite frankly what it looks like. It looks like some form of fascism or some form of communism. I mean, I know I just said that these two were actually the same and there were different forms of it. One tends to focus more on race and one tends to focus more on class. But still at the same time, at the end of the day, they're both, quite frankly, pretty daggone racist. And also to go on top of that there too, neither one of those systems succeeded. Guys, I made a video a while back talking about why it was that Trump was gaining with Hispanics. And the thing about that is this here. I talked about that particular topic in this right here because it was actually pretty daggone obvious why it was that he was beginning to gain with Hispanics. It was right after his Bronx rally. Those who have ancestral roots, and I mean ancestral roots, meaning family members who lived under communism at one point in time, being the fact that they're Cuban, maybe from South America, they dealt with some form of radical socialism or fascism, they're going to see what's going on with him at this moment in time as far as here in the United States with court cases, the trials, and the outright persecution of some of these rigged charges, these rigged trials. They're going to see that as bringing back communism because obviously they have the stories from family members and it definitely looks and smells a lot like it. Whereas with Mexican voters, and obviously I forgot to include Central American voters, I apologize, but the same thing goes there too, especially if you're like Nicaragua. But the thing about Mexican voters is that they're looking at the situation and they're looking at the Democratic Party just outright giving citizenship to a bunch of people who just crossed the border and all kinds of other benefits that these people who've been here for a while. And of course, I'm not in favor of illegal immigration. If there should be a wall, and of course, deportation should be a very, very big thing. The problem is this right here. A lot of people have been here for a very, very long time. They've actually applied, gone through the system, and they're forced to wait. So you're going to go ahead and legalize all the new arrivals over the ones who've been here forever and actually been supporting the Democratic Party. Now they see what the Democratic Party is doing, and now they're turning to Trump. It seems to me like these people in Europe, especially who live in rural or eastern Germany, those who live in France, especially in the rural areas, Spain, and throughout pretty much all of Western Europe, it seems to me that these people can see that the federal or their governments, especially the European Union, is full of people who are probably ardent communists and Marxists and globalists, and quite frankly, they can't manage anything. And they probably aren't even fit to pour a pea out of a boot without the instructions. So what did leadership in Europe do? Well,
the En Marche party to Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally.
And of course, there's going to be a labeling of far right and all that type of stuff there, which, by the way, you're just going to have to just go ahead and get used to them doing because guess what? They're going to call you far right anyway, so you might as well just go ahead and come on out and accept it. It's almost like what Steve Bannon said before they decided to lock him up. I mean, let me just play this. You're just going to have to not be scared to be called names. It's just the way that it is. But there's also something else, too, that people need to consider, that French President Emmanuel Macron, in this recent bit that he's trying to do, where he's basically trying to order snap elections, this right here about what I'm about to show you guys is nothing more than just the last cries of what's about to be a dying institution. But
this is a serious and weighty decision. But above all, it is an act of trust. Confidence in you, my dear compatriots, in the ability of the French people to make the just choice for themselves and for future generations.
But perhaps this is going to be a wake-up moment for the French. At least that's what Emmanuel Macron is trying to do here. Because if you look at the EU elections results, Marine Le Pen's candidate, Jordan Bardella, got 32% of the votes. That's more than double Renew Europe, the party of Emmanuel Macron, where his candidate, Valérie Hayé, really struggled to exist during this campaign. So there is a high risk, but it was seen as the only solution by many, including the Republicans who have been supporting the fragile majority of Macron over the past couple of years.
seen as the only solution given the European parliamentary results that, of course, came through on Sunday. To what extent, then, Caroline, give us a sense of the appeal of Marine Le Pen?
Reaction to the dismal showing of his Renaissance Party in this European election. We haven't had the final results from France yet, but the exit polls suggesting they will get just over 15%, and the very strong performance of Rassemblement National, the party which is led on a European level by Jordan Bardella, the 28-year-old leader of the RN. It's led in the National Assembly by Marine Le Pen, of course, such a familiar figure in right-wing politics. Said, well, Emmanuel Macron cannot ignore this result. He needs to dissolve Parliament. Now, I have to say that demand was met with a bit of a pinch of salt as being grandstanding. It turns out that, in fact, Emmanuel Macron has risen to the bait and has said that he will hold these 2 rounds of legislative elections, effectively conceding that he cannot, as president, ignore such a call from the people. So I think for Macron, this really is a bloody nose.
Now, there's some commentators here on the platform who are saying that he's kind of like saying that this right here is the will of the people, the will of the French people. This right here is their decision. No. He wants to snap elections because, quite frankly, he views this as an embarrassment. He wants to see how bad it is. Look, some people are saying that he wants to do this because obviously he wants to try to turn the tide and make it not be as bad as it is. But in reality, it's really and truly as bad as it is. As a matter of fact, I would argue that in the second round of voting, I would argue that I would actually argue that he would get beaten by a bigger amount. You see, people tend to go and change affiliation and go to this one over here and go to that one. And of course, some people may actually argue that the left could actually win in this case. But I don't see that happening here, especially given all the crime, given all the chaos, given all the mixing that's going on, given the riots, given everything that's going on. It seems to me like the people in Europe have spoken, and I'm actually expecting the next round of results to be much, much worse for the European Union. Just saying. And like I said earlier, they're going to call you far right anyway, so just go ahead and accept it, grin and bear it, put your chin down, put your hands up, and just move forward. I got this next bit from Stephen Crowder. I thought it was actually quite good, but it actually, for the most part, kind of sums up exactly how Europeans are feeling right now.
Part of it, but a beacon nonetheless. But what about an alternative for the Deutschland? What if, and I know this is going to sound radically right-wing, but what if Germany was for Germans? Ja, das ist gut.
That's a skill, being able to carry that many beers at once.
Right-wing, far-right policies of the AfD. They have a part of their actually, I guess you would call it their charter, their platform. Let's bring up the reference. A commitment to traditional family as a guiding principle, meaning larger families over mass migration. Now, of course, the left sees that as far right because they see the traditional nuclear family as a structure of patriarchy, just to be clear. So they would see that as far right, saying, let's prioritize healthy families and encouraging that rather than military-aged males coming into this country. They don't want any irregular type of immigration via asylum. That's become a problem there. They want repatriation of illegals. They want to remove...
repatriation of illegals means kicking them out.
Yes.
They want to kick them out?
Yes.
Okay.
Deutschland for Germans. France for French. I mean, come on, man. I mean, everybody wants their own country. I mean, it kind of goes back to Brexit. I want to say that it was Ringo Starr of the Beatles who actually was asked about what happened in Brexit, and his response was, it's about having your own country. I think the nationalism is obviously picking up in these areas, but of course, anytime you mention nationalism, somebody's got to throw in the word fascism to go along with it either. I mean, apparently being patriotic or loving your country means that you're a fascist nowadays. So what happens here in the United States? Does this right here correlate? Well, given the fact that immigration right now is one of the top issues this presidential election cycle, given the fact that you've got a regime that currently wants to lock up its opponent. Oh, by the way, Hunter Biden got convicted in his trial. I'll be having a video out tomorrow to follow up on this one here, or it may come out before that. But something else, too, to consider about this entire situation, as far as I'm considering, is that it seems to me like it's an actual shift. The United Kingdom right now, they're going through a situation where the Reform Party, the Tories, by the way, are getting absolutely destroyed, or expected to get destroyed, and Reform is actually expected to pick up a lot of seats. You're probably going to see a bit of a shakeup there. You're probably going to see the shakeup in France continue. You're probably going to see the shakeup in Spain continue, as well as in Belgium, the Netherlands, and of course also Germany. You're probably going to see a shakeup throughout all of Europe west of, say, Poland. And of course, Poland is already there. Of course, you guys know about Poland and Hungary, which we may do another video on that at a later date. The fact of the matter is that these sort of things tend to be somewhat contagious. So, yes, I do believe it's going to have an outcome, and you're probably going to see a similar outcome here in the United States. But we've got some time before we get to that there. So make sure you guys kind of stick around for that because, as I've said before, I think the next 5 or 6 months could be very, very interesting. And, of course, I've also got a video coming up with Hunter Biden's situation when he just got convicted. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on that, too. So you'll probably get that video before you got this one here. So, or this one may come out before. I'm not entirely sure. But basically what I'm seeing is this right here. You're seeing a shakeup politically. People are tired of wokeness. People are tired of the massive immigration. They're tired of the crime. And, of course, they're tired of just good old-fashioned crap government management in their home continent. I say home continent because, obviously, it's a bunch of countries within the continent. But still, at the same time, though, that right there is what the hell happened in this case. But, of course, people on the left and lefties are still going to continue to whine about it. Either way, though, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. I'll see you guys later.